Yo, what's going on, y'all? Hey, we're back, baby. We're back. Look, the Weekend Be Heroes podcast, man, but we're changing up a little this week. This is your boy, Jon Matt, one of the hosts here, of course, your weekly host, and of course, my little brother, Matt. What's up, Matt? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I think we have a little guest here today.
Oh, yeah. We had to bring someone on who we heard was a little bit of a Star Wars fan. Maybe, as much of it I am as a Marvel fan, hopefully. But Mason Tomczak, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Glad to have you on, man. Hey, so we're gonna get right into it. I mean, this is what we like to do, kind of talk about anything geek related.
Okay.
I'm a geek at heart, and we want to keep doing this thing. So I got to give you the little bit of Q&A we do with all of our guests.
All right.
We're gonna start this off with you're a Star Wars fan. You said you are. So
I am a Star Wars fan.
What is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Or
you know what? How about this? How about your favorite Star Wars content?
Star Wars content. I'd say you definitely got to go original trilogy. And I mean, I'll tell you my favorite movie too. For the longest time, every summer, me and my brother, we do like a 6-movie marathon with the prequels and the originals. So for the longest time, Return of the Jedi was my favorite. But then I realized why everybody likes Empire Strikes Back so much, because when you actually go and watch it, your eyes are glued to the screen the entire time. Like, it's such an engaging movie. So favorite Star Wars content, definitely I'd say out of the original trilogy, I'd say the 3 original movies. They're just classic, and they have like a great sense of nostalgia to them, and they're awesome movies.
So you mentioned that you consistently watch the prequels. So you're a big fan of the prequels. Am I kind of getting that, or?
Yeah. So
okay.
The prequels, I used to meme about the prequels like everybody does,
as we all did,
and I still do. But like, as I watched them, am I talking too loud, or is
no? You're perfectly fine.
No, you're good. Yeah.
As I watched the prequels, year after year, I realized that they actually aren't as bad as we think.
You hear him?
However, the Phantom Menace is always going to be bad. It has its moments, but it's hard to get through. But it's Star Wars, so I get through it. Attack of the Clones gets better. Revenge of the Sith is, I think, very good. I think you could put it on the same level as some of the other originals. So yeah.
I am so glad you jumped on the pod, because Matt has never agreed with me about the prequels, and that I love them.
Matt's a prequel hater?
So I mean, I feel like you slowly kind of leaned the other way lately, Matt. I mean, you can speak for yourself, obviously, but yeah, he hated that I liked them. That's just, I love them.
No,
same thing.
So
Revenge of the Sith is my favorite for sure.
Okay, so here's my philosophy. I think the prequels had the best lore, but the worst movies. I think they are objectively the worst made movies out of all the trilogies, sequels included.
I'm going to say
sequels. The worst of the sequels?
They are.
Right.
Yes.
So you guys know we are kicking Matt out of the podcast.
Okay. All right. So Jonathan, where were you going to talk about?
They are. I mean, visually they're worse. Writing is worse.
All right, Matt.
I'll give you
dialogue wise.
I'll give you writing a bit.
I think I will say at least they had a consistent story. Like, they knew what they were like. George Lucas knew what he was planning. Sequels is a separate.
You also have to realize, Matt, for its time, if you watch the prequels now, you look at the animation of, like, I don't know, the droids or the clones or whatever. And for its time, like, when you watched that when it came out, it was like, oh, this is like top of the line stuff. But now if you were to compare that to the sequels, it's been like, is it 20 years? Or no. Probably 15, 20 years.
Just
pretty wrong. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Since the trilogy. So animation has come a much further way.
See, that's what I think too is, and I think you're kind of saying this is, how many years between the original trilogies and that 30 plus years, right? Well, I think the expectations were so high because we were in the 2000s now. It's like, what much better can they do compared to the trilogy? But you can't ever compare it to a classic. Like, that's like comparing Back to the Future to anything else. It just doesn't happen. So, a lot of people had those high expectations. It just would never work like that. You know what I mean? But Matt, just start liking the. I mean, come on, man. The prequels. Come on.
Come on, man.
No, I like the lore. I think Clone War. I think without the inclusion of Clone Wars, the prequels do not have much of an effect on me
Oh,
as a viewer.
I'll
I think
100% give you both like the Clone Wars and animated series and what we expect to see in the in Kenobi coming out and all these other, with
Yeah.
Mando also. Seeing all of those kind of dots connected has made the prequels that much better. Like I started to
Oh,
like
absolutely.
more because of the stuff that's come out recently.
Absolutely.
You know what I
That's
mean?
why. So I've grown a
Connecting the
deep
dots.
I've grown a deep appreciation for the prequels. I think the one element I dislike heavily is the midichlorians. I think that undermines sort of the mythic side of the Force. But I will say the Mandalorian, especially, which I know we'll discuss a bit later, has handled the MC count very well, all things considered. Because Moff
Right.
Gideon, as you know, is this sort of tyrant who thinks that he could just inject himself with midichlorians and automatically become a Force user. That's
I was
basically the
surprised.
implication.
I was surprised that they even went near midichlorians for the Mandalorian, because I thought that like soured everybody who like heard it in the Phantom Menace. It's probably the most
Right.
like cringeworthy, one of the most cringeworthy parts. But I agree. I think they did a pretty good job of it and didn't make it like the main focus of the Force. It was sort of just an extra thing.
Yeah.
Right. It seemed kind of like behind the scenes in the dark, kind of thing, which is awesome. All right, a little tangent. It's all good though. Favorite Star Wars character, Mason.
Favorite Star Wars character. Oh boy. Um, have to go with.
It ain't
I
easy.
like I like Han Solo. I really like Han Solo.
Okay.
I think if you're trying to, I'd say I separate them into like Jedi and Sith, and then everything else. I'd say out of everything else, Han Solo is my favorite character. Um, I sort of idolize him. He's sort of smooth talking. He's rebellious. I'm a very rebellious man. Matt knows that. Not really, but he's cool. He has some good lines in the originals. His acting sort of brings it. Harrison Ford sort of brings it to life. Um, I don't know, man, but definitely him for the original trilogy. For the prequels, it's got to be Obi-Wan. Love Obi-Wan. He's a god. Any video game, anything. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi in like episode 3 or 2 or 3. I just think he's a great character. And they did a really good job connecting Ben Kenobi back to him. Because Ben Kenobi, I feel like, he was only in A New Hope, and then he died.
Right.
Obviously, he was with in the other movies a little bit, but I think they did a really good job of bringing his character to life, and I think they gave more meaning to Kenobi than was even in the original trilogy. So, two favorites.
Yeah, I like those. Matt, I never actually went over what your favorite movie in a character was. Let me get yours.
Oh, my favorite Star Wars movie, it has to be The Last Jedi. I think it is. No, I'm joking around.
Oh,
No.
made me faint.
Yeah, I typically go back and forth between Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi has far more flaws than Empire Strikes Back. Personally, I find that the inclusion of the Ewoks was a bit cringeworthy. I think the pacing was a bit all over the place, like very slow moving at times. But I think as a whole, the way it sort of brought everything full circle, especially with that connecting to the prequels, where Anakin was essentially the protagonist throughout the entire 6 movies. Um, and to see him go through with his ultimate sacrifice near the end, I think was speak volumes of his character. And Darth Vader is arguably one of my personal favorites throughout the entirety of Star Wars. Really, I mean,
Give me the
I've only
Vader R-rated movie, please. I want to see him murdering Jedi. I've been hoping for this for 20 years now. I want to
The
see an
young ones.
R-rated Vader. R-rated Vader, one time. Okay, so it's definitely Vader's it's your choice for sure.
Yeah,
as far
and
as
Return
character?
of the Jedi would be my favorite. I usually go
Okay.
back and forth, but Return of the Jedi definitely.
So for me, I would have to say, Jar Jar is definitely no, I was kidding. Not Jar Jar. Although if he turned into a Sith, like the rumor was that Lucas had back in the day,
Darth Jar Jar.
that would have been actually funny as hell.
Jesus, it would have been.
As far as
Oh my
favorite
God.
character, I think I agree on the Anakin front. I love the prequels now. Actually, I started to like them now. But my biggest thing is I hope because Hayden Chris or Pantier or whatever, what was his name? Last name?
Christensen.
Christensen.
Hayden
Right.
Christensen.
I almost said Hayden Pantier. That's the girl that played in Heroes. But anyway, he's going to be in Kenobi. So my assumption is flashbacks to the Clone Wars, right? When they were always together. A, we know the Clone Wars saved the prequels. B, we finally get to see that in live action. And C, I hope they redeem him, right? So, Anakin as a character is great. People loved him in Clone Wars in the anime series. Started to love the prequels more because of it. But they did him so dirty with his writing in the prequels. I hope they, give him a chance to redeem and show, his true ability to act. And I think we will. I think we'll definitely see that. So obviously we'll see either him as Vader or him, in the Clone Wars. So definitely him.
Yeah, I literally want to see Obi-Wan and Anakin in their iconic outfits from Clone Wars in live action.
Yeah,
If they,
I can see that happening.
if they, oh my goodness, I will automatically give Kenobi a 10 out of 10 if they literally just show a single shot of them
They have to
in
They
live
have
action.
to. As far as my favorite project, so I'm gonna have to go with the Clone Wars animated series only because of what it, how much it's really changed the entire canon. It seems like, right? So for me, if you can make the prequels look good for me, I think you did a good job. I'm gonna give you the credit. So most of the animated series are great though. Like Rebels is great too. Obviously, it's super related to the Mandalorian and what's going on in that series. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, so we'll see where it goes. I'm excited to see some I hope we got to see a little bit of that, like mean Vader. So I don't know if you guys have ever played what's the most recent Star Wars game that came out? It's not crossing my mind.
What's
Fallen
it
Order?
called? Yeah, Jedi
Fallen Order. Yeah. So
I haven't.
I don't know if you guys played it or not, but whatever, not to spoil too much, but at the end of it, Vader pops up and you see his pure strength. His like Sith ability is just beyond anything you've ever seen. And if I could see that in a movie or a series, 10 out of 10, like Matt said.
Yeah.
Like, give me that.
Such a cool entrance. Like
Yeah.
honestly, anytime Vader enters a hallway or just a room,
You're fucked.
Like
you're fucked. It's just like getting the Defenders in the hallway when it's like every series on Marvel. But hey, we're gonna move in. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Or have you guys ever seen like a clip on YouTube of Vader without his without who's the guy who did his voice? James Earl Jones, without James Earl Jones's voice.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah.
If you watch it, because what they did, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure after they filmed the movie, they had some random guy doing the voice, and it was totally like underwhelming, and it was almost embarrassing. Like there's a clip of him like choking the rebel in the beginning, and he sounds more like Anakin would actually still sound
Right.
if his body or whatever wasn't affected. But I think towards the end of production, James Earl Jones did the voice, and if that change weren't to have happened, then it might have been totally different. It might have been laughable. But it's an amazing voice. I think Darth Vader is like the most iconically designed character, like villain ever. If someone doesn't know Star Wars, they might still know if they see Darth Vader's face. They might say, "Oh, it's like Darth Vader, Darth Vader, or something like that."
Right. Yeah. He's definitely, I feel like irreplaceable at this point, right? So, maybe they always figure out a way to have him voice it, through there's all this technology now they can make it happen.
Mhm.
But we'll see. But just to move on a little bit, let's get into some Mandalorian. So I know obviously Matt is a huge fan of it. I've been told you are as well, Mason. I am a huge fan of it as well. As far as maybe just go through a little bit of all of it. I mean, but for the most part, season 2. What were your initial thoughts, Mace? What are you thinking in terms of what happened, where it's headed? Did you like the cameo at the end? Kind of your breakdown.
Okay. So as the season started out, I think it's the first episode. Is the first episode where they're fighting the giant dragon thing in the desert? Is
The
that the
Great
first
Dragon?
one?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Marshal. Yep.
Right. So I remember telling Matt or talking to Matt about this when that came out, and we both watched it. Uh, if you remember in season one, they went to Tatooine for some extraneous reason that I don't remember. But this time, Matt pointed out, oh, well, there's actually a reason to go to Tatooine now. And what was the reason, Matt? Why did they go to Tatooine? Do you
Oh
remember?
yeah, so it was in the big opening scene. He was heading to this fighting ring and needed to collect information on where
Right.
the Mandalorians, and that's when he's like, "Oh, there's someone hiding out in Tatooine."
Oh,
And he
okay.
came across Cobb Vanth, who was seen with Boba Fett's iconic armor.
All right, yeah.
It was him.
Yeah, so anyways, I remember vividly watching the first episode, and he's flying into Tatooine, and there's like, there's banthas and sand people everywhere, and it's like the soundtrack for The Mandalorian is amazing. And
I know.
the soundtrack was playing, and it was like so awesome. So the beginning of the season, uh, it was a bang. Then like there are a few episodes like the spider cave and some of the like filler ones traveling with the frog lady.
Right.
They made for some good moments and stuff. But it sort of felt like filler sometimes, but not really. I was still interested the whole time.
Me too.
So, anyways, as it got towards the end, the episode, the other episode that stood out to me was, I believe, episode 7, the one with Bill Burr, where they're like driving through the jungle.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like some sort of like Captain Phillips, like pirate. I don't like African like safari like movie. I don't know if that's a type of movie,
Right.
but they're driving through the jungle. There's bombs going off in front of them. You could say it looks like something out of Vietnam or something like that. But I thought it was a really cool setting, and just how they did that episode with them not being able to like crash the car. It's sort of like Mad Max. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
Anyways, that episode really stood out to me. That was really exciting, and that sort of segued into the wrap up, the ending. And I think that the the finale, I watched it 4 times, or I watched it on my own once,
lot.
and then had to watch it with my brother, with my family again for fun. But it was fantastic. I think. Um, Literally, they could have had an entire 45-minute clip of Hayden Christensen um, acting terribly up until the last 10 minutes of the episode, and it would have been amazing. It's just that last 10 minutes. I think that everybody who's a fan of Star Wars, um, when they said, "Oh, we're picking up something on the scanner," and they're like, "Oh, it's an X-wing," and she's like, "Oh, an X-wing. Oh, what's one X-wing gonna do?" And then it just clicks in your head, and you're like, "Damn!" Like,
Listen,
this is about to get like.
I was in my living room watching this, and I'm just like, nope, yep,
Yep.
bang,
Yep.
bang. She's like, I don't fucking care. I'm like, I do. Look at this. I'm just going. My wife, she's like, what the hell's wrong with him? But that's me.
Oh my God.
But Luke, I think we all kind of knew, right? So in a way, we knew. In a way, could it have been Ezra from Rebels? Could it have been Luke? Could it have been Cal from Fallen Order? Because that's considered canon accordingly. So you come up with all these ideas of what Jedi it may be, but at the same time, there's not many left, right? Like Luke was
No,
one of the
not a lot of options.
and Ahsoka already said no. We all didn't even know Ahsoka was around until she popped up. It still surprised me. Like, I don't understand how they did it. And that scene, and again, talk about a hallway. Holy shit. He was destroying all the droids the dark troopers and
those are so badass.
Oh, they were. And he just didn't give a fuck. Like, he's just like ripping them apart. And I'm like, yo, when he pulled the one up in the air in the ceiling and just crushed him,
Oh my
dog, man.
god.
Shit.
I am
In
so
5 years.
happy. Literally, I am so happy they brought back the Force Crush in
Oh
the live
yeah.
action because I think the
Yeah.
only time I remember was like there's a scene in the Clone Wars where like Obi-Wan is on this slave-ridden planet and he literally crushes two commando droids up in the air instantly. So that was literally one of the few instances we saw that. And then to see that in live action, literally like Luke, oh, it was just
Yeah.
so
I think that like the part where what am I thinking of? So like when Luke comes in and he's just messing everybody up like you guys are talking about. I think it's great that they didn't have him or it's great that he like saved the day because after Return of the Jedi, we were just left with this giant gap. And then the Force Awakens, oh, Luke's on an island and he just
Right.
milks cows for fun.
Right.
But like we didn't know what Luke Skywalker was doing now that he was this Jedi who brought balance to or sort of brought balance to the Force.
Right.
We didn't have like how Anakin and Obi-Wan went on all these awesome like Jedi adventures in uh, the Clone Wars or the prequels. We didn't have Luke like going around the galaxy showing his like mastery as a Jedi, but I think that the scene perfectly shows like it shows like the most powerful version of Luke and how Luke was like really stronger than like the dark side or anything like that. When he just
yeah.
walks through the hallway and destroys everything. It's just a great display of his character.
So it's funny that you mentioned it's as far as balance. I want to get into something else too, but as far as balance of the force. So throughout the sequels, we saw that they really did you let's say throughout the entirety of the canon, right? There was
Mm-hmm.
never really balancing the force. It was the Jedi kind of like minimizing the dark side, right? It was so in other words, like Jedi here, dark side here. There was never a
Right,
true balance.
right,
I think the one good thing that came out of the sequels is, the only way that there's true balance is that there's no Jedi. Like nobody defines himself as the Jedi on the light side or Sith on the dark side. That's kind of where I think is where they went, right? At the end of it, it seemed like she was over the Jedi part of it. They showed the kid who suddenly has powers, a random person that had no connection to the Force, to what we can tell when he was grabbing the broom with the Force powers. So I think that's what they're leaning towards for the future of at least Star Wars canon is, you don't need to be this generational talent to be a Jedi. You can just be a normal person that pops up and ends up being one. And that really is the true balance of the Force, which we'll know obviously in the future. I'm sure the Sith are going to pop up again, but it's just tough. You're always going to see one side, just the good and the bad, but at the same time, true balance would be just not having any side whatsoever and being that kind of Force driven being. So as far as gap, you mentioned that the big gap in between. What are your thoughts on a possible Luke Skywalker series? So we know right after Mando, he takes Grogu. I hope Grogu doesn't die in the whole, pre-sequel, like destroy the Jedi
Oh
Temple.
god.
I don't think he's going to. I think Grogu's going to be in his own separate way by the time that comes. But so my thing is obviously it's going to cost a shit ton to have Mark Hamill appear as a young version for an entire series. I don't know if they'd ever do that. They got to pay him and then they got to pay to make him look like old Luke or young Luke. I'm sorry. um I'm leaning towards like an animated series. Like we know how good they did with Clone Wars and Rebels. I mean, if you do an animated series, you have Hamill who has a long history of doing animated voices, voice acting,
skips
right?
from regular show.
Right. And he already has experience. So he can easily do it and play his younger self, in the animated series. I think it'd be great to show that gap. I still feel like I'm missing a lot in the in between because there's so many comics and books and all these different things that showed, Ben being born and how they tried to train him and all that, the temple. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think a Luke Skywalker series makes sense, or a Jedi Academy series maybe?
Um, I think that the best, or I think that you're right with the animated series. to be honest, I don't see them. For some reason, I don't see them filling the gap with like a Luke Skywalker thing. I just feel like that's too like delicate for them to do with all these other series they're doing. And they have to be really like they have to really fit it, structure it so that it's so that it leads up to the Force Awakens. But I think if they were to do a Luke Skywalker series, then an animated one would be the best way to do it, like you said. And like I said, it would be Luke Skywalker going around the galaxy, doing these random like quests and things that are super fun, and there'd obviously be a storyline that you could probably connect to the Mandalorian, and it would sort of flesh out his character more. I think that'd be the best way to do it if they did, but I don't really see them doing it. But what do you think, Matthew?
I mean, I think the same. So for me personally, I was not thrilled at the possibility of Luke being the Jedi. I think we all knew, like Luke. Realistically speaking, Luke was the most logical Jedi to appear. I did not expect them to go down sort of a new character route. I know Mara Jade was being tossed around. I know many people were fan casting Bryce Dallas Howard. She already
I
has
was
connections to the
still
Mandalorian.
surprised that they did Luke. I didn't expect. I thought the only option could be Luke, but I thought, okay, something's going to happen. It's going to be lame. It's going to be someone
Right.
from one of these random series that Matt watched at like 4 a.m. and I'm not going to know who it is.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I was kind of like the same mentality, and then I think Peyton Reed directed that episode, and I find him to be a very bland director. I mean, he's directed only like I think his most notable credits are 2 Ant-Man films, which I think are probably like the lower tier Marvel movies. But he really, did Luke justice. I mean,
Give that man an Oscar.
yeah,
Give
I
him
mean,
an Oscar.
yeah, I would say as
Damn
well
sure.
that scene, the entire scene could have been over the top, where you see like Luke Skywalker flipping his lightsaber around. But notice how he's walking gracefully and not like coming out. I mean, there is a certain level of cockiness in Luke's character. I mean, that's definitely one
That's
of
what
the
made
core.
Luke for sure.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, I think is meant to show his progression as from a Jedi Knight to a Jedi Master. That scene solidified him as, yes, this is the Luke Skywalker we know prior to all the events that occur before Force Awakens, and then sort of his character development throughout the sequel trilogy. But really, I was just surprised at the level of quality Peyton Reed has as a director, and I think I'm excited for Ant-Man 3 now, because he definitely handles some of these more intense sequences, I guess. So I'm definitely in regards to the whole like Luke animated series, I want them to stray away from the Skywalker saga. Saga. I sort of want them to go through some new content. The one another project we'll be talking about is the Acolyte. I think it's my most anticipated, just because it's something fresh, it's something we haven't seen before, and it's at the height of the High Republic, where the Sith are on the verge of sort of like collapse, even though Jedi were as ignorant as they were.
They were very.
So
as far as predictions for season 3, so I have a couple, I guess, questions, and you guys kind of give your thoughts around that. But so the big thing is going to be, where the hell is Grogu? Like, everybody's going to ask every week, where's Grogu? That's our mascot. Where is he? So as far as Grogu, do you think we're ever going to see him again? Is the first question. And along with that, and I think we all kind of just know the answer, but so as far as this is going to be Mandalore centric, right? I mean, they helped Mando do what he needed. They saved Grogu. Grogu's safe now. Mando owes them a favor, and now Mando's tied to the Darksaber and has to be associated with Mandalore at this point. So where do you guys kind of see both things coming into play, Grogu and then Mandalore?
I think that I don't think that the Mandalorian can, or the unfortunate reality is, if they have too little of Baby Yoda, then like pop culture might sort of, the next season's not coming out for a while, like a couple years or a year or two.
Yeah,
a long time. So I feel like if they come back and uh, Grogu is left out of the equation too much, that the general public may stop. I mean, everyone's gonna watch it still, but they may say, "Oh, where was Baby Yoda this season? Is this the same show?"
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Star Wars fans will still watch it if they go down the path of focusing on Mandalore, which, like you said, I see as the only option for them to do, and I think it could be really interesting to see them bring like the saturated like lore, like the Mandalore story from the Clone Wars to live action, because before we've seen like um obviously Attack of the Clones being used as like the source for the Clone Wars, but we haven't really, or live action to animated, but we haven't really seen animated to live action, um, in terms of bringing like a story to life. So I'm excited as long as they keep Baby Yoda intertwined in the story. I'm okay with him being put on the back burner just because of how well they developed Mando's character and his connection to Baby Yoda.
So I'm thinking, and real quick, man, I'll let you get into it, but just kind of speaking off what you said, I agree that to bring in the non-fandom fans into Star Wars, they needed someone like Grogu to
Right.
reel them in. The problem that I think they have, and why you're right in the sense that they need to kind of tie him in still, Mando's very Rebels anime series centric. Like almost
Yeah.
everything that, I mean, for good and for bad, it's
Oh yeah.
connected to that series, right? And
Hmm.
non-fandom fans are not gonna ever watch that series and not really know what's going on. They just kind of depend on the solo centric story of Mando itself, and then love the baby Grogu and all these characters that were kind of introduced. But
Mm-hmm.
and then again, Star Wars for the most part is a big fandom thing anyway. Most of the hardcore fans from all the way back to the 70s are obviously all into this. But if you want to, Disney's all about that money in the end, and they want
Yeah.
to bring in as many fans and new fans as they can. I think that's been their goal, is what Favreau has said too. He said, I don't want to just only take care of the people who watched the trilogy back in the old days, the original trilogy. I want to take, I want everybody to feel like they could be a fan of what we have. So
Mm-hmm.
it could hurt the story. And Matt, I think you wanted to jump in and say something, but
Yeah, I mean, I think as someone who spent however long binge watching the Clone Wars as well as Star Wars Rebels, um, I will be satisfied with the entirety of the season having this plot dedicated to Mandalore. How Din will have to rise, since they rise to the occasion and possibly unite all these Mandalore clans. I know there were rumors indicating that Naboo was supposed to be making an appearance
Oh boy.
um next season. And fun fact though, Jar Jar in Legends, he was actually like a clown performer on Latrice and Naboo, and the Mandalorian has done quite a decent job at improving elements from the prequel. So I would love to see Jar Jar come back
Oh,
as a joke, like see him like guide Mando around, because for all we know, there could be Mandalorian clans located on Naboo, or those who sort of have like an attachment to those said clans. But I am interested to see the story that they are telling. I have no issue if Grogu has limited appearances. I think ultimately Grogu's story has completed, so to speak. I think maybe in the future they'll start exploring him further to see how he's progressed as a Jedi, and sort of how his relationship with Luke is slowly building. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely hope they find ways to sort of have general audiences feel comfortable with, uh, the story without Grogu for a while. And that will be a very, a difficult challenge for them to face. Is, I mean, how on earth are they going to appease fans who've watched these projects previously, and for someone like, me and John's mom, not to say she's a fan of this kind of show, but if let's say she were to watch this show, the first episode she'll know what it's about. First episode is Mando protects a child. Second season, Mando tries to get a child to the Jedi. Simple premises. Season 3 comes around, it'll be more complex, and I'm just
Yeah.
interested to see how they'll execute these storylines.
I think it'll be great. I'm definitely excited to see the Darksaber storyline. Obviously, we know Moff Gideon is not done with, so he's going to play a factor. Um, I'm excited to see Ezra I think is going to pop up, right? Like Ahsoka. I mean, maybe probably in the Ahsoka series more so than the this next season of Mando, but maybe it all ties together and we see him there too.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see more Jedi, more characters. I'm kind of with you, Matt, in terms of like sick of hearing the word Skywalker, to be honest. And I'm ready to. There's so much more you can do, and it's speaking to we look back and as far as theories for who may pop up at the end of season 2, you know we all wanted these different characters because we've seen Luke so many times and we've seen all these same characters so much. It'd be nice to see an expanded universe. And they say, oh, where was Ahsoka when Luke was fighting Vader and the Emperor? And it's like, dude, the universe is fucking huge. I mean, the Star Wars universe is like, what is it when they travel, they something I read, they go through like 15 different like galaxies when they travel through light speed. So like if they're anywhere within those galaxies,
light speed jumping,
they never be around. You know what I mean? So it's kind of their excuse for why these characters didn't pop up, which I get it. But yeah, I'm excited. I think season 3 is going to be dope. And I'm ready for all these other shows, which I'm gonna kind of, and we can get right into this, but I'll kind of list every show that has been kind of rumored and or confirmed, and you guys maybe just pick which one you're most excited for and why. So I'll just list the shows real quick. The first show that was announced was Ahsoka. Obviously, a series centered on Ahsoka herself, right after she appeared in Mando, I believe. So there's either it's after she appeared at the end of Rebels, or after after her appearance in Mando. It's one or the other. I think is the end of Mando was right before the end of Rebels, and then Ahsoka kicks off right after.
That's what I'm thinking. I also think the same.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And then next series is Lando. I'm really excited for that. I really want like a narrated voice kind of. I think Matt, you spoke about this before.
Yeah.
The old Lando kind of narrating a story of his past. That'd be so dope. Acolyte, which Matt already mentioned a little bit. That's going to be a Sith centric show, a live action show back in the High Republic. I'm a big fan of like a Sith centric show. Like they don't really explore the Sith except like they're bad, go kill them. You know what I mean? So like to really see like maybe an in-depth story behind the Sith, that'd be dope. Andor, Matt, I can't remember what Andor was. What Andor's going to be? Is that focused with
it's more like an espionage thriller that takes place between the events of Revenge of the Sith, New Hope, and it's 10 years before Rogue One.
What's it called?
Andor. Casey Andor from Rogue One. You probably don't remember half their names, but
I still have to remember some of the names. But so obviously this will be leading up to Luke's time with the Rebels, correct?
Yeah. Well, it will lead up to Rogue One, and then they die in Rogue One.
Right before it got sadly. We got the Rangers of the New Republic or the Old Republic, right?
New Republic, because this is a Mandalorian.
Mando, gotcha. Okay, there's going to be a Mando as well. We have a Droid Tale, which would be a simple animated series. Rogue Squadron, which I'm pretty excited for as well. Obviously focused with the Rebels as well. We have a solo movie confirmed with Taika Waititi directing, which I love Thor Ragnarok, so I think it's going to be amazing in that. And then Rian Johnson's trilogy is like 40% confirmed. Like every day it seems.
Wait! Whoa!
So
Rian Johnson trilogy.
So apparently, he's doing a non-Skywalker trilogy. It was confirmed a while back, and they've slowly stopped talking about it. So I think it's going to be
on the back burner. Yeah, kind
of on the back burner, probably forgotten about, probably for a good reason type of scenario. I mean, we'll see. I want a new story regardless. I'm not too opposed.
And that okay. So I know I do apologize for cutting you off, but
you're good.
Fans believe Rian Johnson. We can get into this, but fans believe Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars, right? He ruined the use of the Force, ruined the use of lights. Well, he did ruin the use of light speed. I'm sorry, but you cannot weaponize light speed. That pretty much undermines like every single battle that occurred in the prequels the original trilogy and anything before, like, the movies that occurred before the sequels. Like, if you can just weaponize hyperspace, you literally just get an android, target a ship, light speed, and then enemies would probably do the exact same. But that's besides the point. I just feel as if that for Rian Johnson, if he has no connection to the Skywalker saga, I think he can do a fine job with the trilogy that he's given, because we can assume that he's going to be introducing new characters, set in a new world, and I think he has an interesting directing style. I think he's very ambitious, so I'm curious to see what he'd accomplish. But what are your thoughts, Mason, on Rian Johnson's Last Jedi?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily his fault. Just as a director, I think it's just the fault of Disney as a whole and the whole direction they were going, because if they wanted to continue the Skywalker saga, then they should have they literally walked into a massive jungle without a map, and they just figured it out as they went. That's the problem, because you had the Force Awakens. It's like, okay, you basically have A New Hope with new characters. I liked. I think you said you liked the Force Awakens. I liked the Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see where it was going to go. And then The Last Jedi happened, and I didn't really focus on like, oh well, here he didn't, like, the Force didn't make sense, or this didn't make sense. I mean, yeah, the lightspeed thing was really dumb.
Yeah.
Some other things you could complain about, but the story is the most important part, because it sort of just left me totally confused as to where they were going to go. And then that's evident in The Rise of Skywalker, and how they literally had to bring back Palpatine to save the story, or to make a story. So I think, to be honest, if you ask me what happened in The Last Jedi, I can't tell you, because I mean, I watched The Force Awakens twice, I think, but after I watched The Last Jedi the first time, I was like, what happened? So that's my grievance with it. I don't think that the director should take all the blame for it, because it was a pretty objectively, if you look at it as its own movie, I think people have said this before, that it's a pretty good movie, but as a Star Wars movie, it sort of fails.
Yeah. It kind of expand upon that as well. I mean, I think The Last Jedi is the most beautiful looking Star Wars movie to date, without a doubt. Arguably has the best visuals I personally have ever seen from a Star Wars film. And John's probably gonna kick me out of the meeting for saying this, but
Let's see.
I genuinely believe that Luke Skywalker was absolute perfection in Last Jedi, and no one can say that it contradicts the original trilogy. And here's why. So imagine spending 30+ years of your life collecting Jedi to start an academy, only for all that to be taken away in an instant by the same person that you trained for 17 to 18 years.
You're missing the point that it fell apart because of him. Because of Luke.
Luke?
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, I think you said.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I misunderstood. I thought you were saying Ben is the one that destroyed it all.
Oh no! I said that's why Luke went into exile, because he felt this immeasurable amount of guilt, and embarrassment.
Okay, I thought you were saying more so
for failing Ben.
Right.
Now I know one can argue, well, Luke would, not let the pain define him. But again, I think most of us succumb to that type of failure, to where we overthink, and some were suggesting that Luke was attempting to kill Kylo. I was like, no, they purposely framed the shot as in the Return of the Jedi, where it was more instinctive. He wasn't going to kill Kylo in his sleep. I think it passed through his mind, just like it passed through his mind when he was on the verge of killing Darth Vader. It was just instinctive, almost. I think most of us act out of instinct, like we were about to do something, and then we immediately, jump, prevent ourselves from committing a certain action.
Right.
So.
Well, the problem I have, like, if you look at it from that perspective, it's a good storyline for his character, and it makes sense why he is an old hermit who doesn't want anything to do with the Jedi
Yes.
in the Last Jedi or in all the sequels. But
Sure.
my problem with whoever decided to make the sequel trilogy was that they had rather than filling um the questions that everyone had about the Knights of Ren and Luke's Jedi Order and all this stuff, they only touched on it through like two or three flashbacks and like
Absolutely.
stories throughout the movie. So it's like it didn't seem
Cohesive
real
or
to me. It's
yeah.
like if you had a friend who moved to a different state and you always do them as one way, and then you meet them 30 years later and they're a completely changed person, and they say, oh, I smoked weed one time and that's why I'm like this. That's like it's probably a bad analogy, maybe it's a good one, but that's how I would describe how they treated Luke's character, because they referenced all these things from the Knights of Ren. I thought, whoa, that's cool. He started like his own Jedi Order, and Kylo Ren maybe is going to get some more like backstory, but they never delved into it enough for me to be like, okay, I understand why Luke is like this. This is actually really cool. It sort of was just it sort of just left me hanging in terms of filling Luke's storyline and Kylo Ren's.
So I like that for sure. I I'm leaning towards let's give Ryan Johnson one more chance. I hate that it's a trilogy because you're having him do three movies instead of just one little solo project. But we'll see where he goes. I see the issues, the flaws. But I think they see that maybe a retcon's coming. Who knows? I mean, there is in Rebels there's the world between worlds. Isn't that
Oh
technically
no.
like a multiverse type
Yeah.
of thing? I mean, they can go with the multiverse. Who knows?
So they won't, and the reason being
Yeah.
they've released comics that explicitly connect to the sequels. The Mandalorian is definitely connecting to the sequels, especially with
There's
the
some books that came out. I think they're related to the sequels too.
yeah,
So
for sure. So
that's good.
I don't think I personally would not want them to retcon the sequels, even though they have ridiculous amount of flaws. And I've said from the beginning as well, and I apply this principle to any franchise or piece of media. I do not want to have to read external material to understand your story. If I do not understand your story within the first 15 minutes, that is the definition of bad writing. I do not want to, go out of my way,
Right.
read a 500-page book just to fill in the dots. It's like, oh, this is what happened. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah,
No audience member
I'm a
wants that.
big fan of movie to book adaptation more so than
Right.
explanation. Right? You want it to
Exactly.
be based off a book and some stuff, but don't depend on us going out there to find information for ourselves. It's kind of crazy.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Because most people don't I read the book. I had the new High Republic book that came out. But not many, like we talked about, normal everyday watcher of Star Wars, not a non-fandom person, they're not going to read the books ever. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Mason, as far as the series that I mentioned, which one are you kind of most excited for? I actually didn't even mention Kenobi. So Kenobi's on there, and I think
Oh,
that's might be what you're leaning towards based off of what you said about Kenobi, but
Off of the ones that you mentioned, some of them I see not having enough. When I hear something like Rangers of the New Republic, well, actually, I was going to say it might not have enough like connection to the Star Wars story to be a good um show or a good series, but I suppose what they're doing with all these different series is sort of making Star Wars more diverse in like what kind of shows they are. Like the Rangers of the New Republic could be more like a crime show or something like that.
yeah,
But I
definitely.
think out of the ones that you mentioned, I'll try to pick one apart from Kenobi because I really don't know. Or I'm excited for Kenobi, but I think if I were to pick one besides that obvious, oh, it's Ben Kenobi, he's a main character. Uh, if I were to pick one, I would pick the what's it called? The Accolades, the Sith one.
Acolyte.
Just for the fact, like you said, that it's about the Sith, because I played. Did you guys play the Force Unleashed
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my
party game?
goodness. Oh, of
Favorite.
course.
I could
Favorite.
see I could see them using a similar or do you know what time the show is going to be set in?
It's going to be set. Oh my God.
Didn't you say the High Republic?
I think it's 150
It's like
years before episode 1.
yeah,
Okay.
150 to 200 years before.
This is
So-
Yoda in his prime, essentially, is what we're gonna
Oh,
see.
Yoda. Okay.
Yoda in
So
his
I
prime.
could definitely see like a very emotional, like dark side story where it's like you have like an apprentice that's like having to choose between uh good and evil, and it like sort of tears them apart and they're forced to make certain decisions, sort of like in the Force Unleashed where you're Darth Vader's apprentice. And I don't remember what exactly happens in that game, but it's awesome. Like, or I just remember like using Force lightning and killing everything, and it was pretty badass. But like, if you channeled that same sort of concept into a series, I feel like it'd be awesome because everything is focused on the Jedi. You know, they're the good guys. And then there's some blurred lines. But if you actually delve into the Sith and their motives, rather than just, oh, the Sith are evil, Jedi are good, then I feel like it'd bring a whole new dimension to the Star Wars story. So I'd say that one. I don't even know anything about it, but I'd say I'm most excited for that type of.
So I kind of think
No.
this is and you're right, 100%. I think that's where they're leaning. I almost think we're going to we're going to see a very, like Matt said a little bit, a very cocky Jedi Order. Like, they think they've diminished the Sith for good. There's no way any of our apprentices or younglings would ever think about going to the dark side. You know, we're the all power that be. Actually, the Grandmaster at the time isn't even Yoda. So Yoda during the prequels up until Attack or Revenge of the Sith, he was the Grandmaster. So this is his Grandmaster, the person that kind of mentored him, that is running the Jedi Order. They're gonna in for a rude awakening. You know what I mean? I think we're gonna see Darth Sidious, slash the Emperor. I think we're gonna see his I guess his Sith leader. I can't remember, Darth Plagueis, I think his name is.
Outrageous.
I think we'll see him, and this Darth Plagueis will be the one kind of trying to convert some of these Jedi over. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's going to be exciting. Matt,
Mhm.
what do you say? What would you say out of all those you're most excited for?
I agree, and I think so definitely the Acolyte.
Mhm.
And I think ultimately as well, the show definitely has an opportunity to expand upon sort of like the almost gray morality between the Jedi and the Sith. I think the Sith as well has these very unique powers, such as Force lightning, and sort of a multitude of other abilities that Jedi do not necessarily want. I think Jedi's theoretically will want to use those powers at their disposal, but realizes the negative repercussions of descending down into the dark side. Because even Dave Filoni mentioned before that he never wants to depict the dark side as something that people should aim towards. It's a constant spiral into madness, and he had to feed, this anger, constantly, to where you're basically altering your mind and your body day after day, just to exhibit these powers. And I think it's very torturous as well. I mean, you spend years and years of your life, kind of this being an entirely different person. That's not necessarily a life worth living whatsoever.
Have you both watched Breaking Bad?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, great television
So
show of all time.
what my ideal like storyline, if they were to do this in the accolade show,
Yep.
yeah, I think that it could sort of be like a Walter White story where you have like a good Jedi like the most like well, I mean, maybe similar to the story. You have a good Jedi who turns bad, but it's not overnight. It's sort of they become uh, infected with this hatred for one reason or another. Um, but it's more like rather than like Anakin's turn to the dark side, where it's influenced by like you know by Darth Sidious and the Jedi Order and all these other things. It will be more of a like personal struggle for this person, like going from the light to the good, and then maybe like the series would end with them either redeeming themselves or um, not redeeming themselves. Something similar to Breaking Bad. That's just what comes to mind for me.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
so I'm almost wondering if if Darth Plagueis is the mastermind behind it all, could he be the semi main character in a sense that he's the one that's being turned over, right? Like I don't know, I don't really know Plagueis' background. We didn't get much from the deleted scene because it was never actually in the movie, I believe, right? The scene that he was explained to Anakin who Darth Plagueis was
Oh, this
actually
thing was in the movie.
was it in the
That is
movie.
just
Okay,
my
I can't
yeah.
remember
It
if it
was
was
like
deleted or added or whatever the case was, but yeah. So like he could it could be that. I think you're 100% right though. It's going to be someone that has the slow turning away from the Jedi Order. We have to remember, and like through all the comics and the books in Star Wars lore, Anakin wasn't the only one that turned. So like
Right.
we that's the big center of attention with all the movies and whatnot, especially with Vader being one of the biggest characters in canon. A lot of Jedi were expelled. A lot of Jedi switched over to the dark side. I thought they were going to be a Sith, Lord in that sense, but obviously there's only the rule of two. Um, People like Asajj Ventress, right? Where they're lower
Mm-hmm.
lower character Sith people, and maybe they kind of jump in that. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think we're all on board with that. I'm a little excited for Ahsoka too. I do want to see the connections to Rebels. I do want to see Ezra. I hope we see Ezra, which Mason, I don't know if you ever watched the Rebel series, but
I
he's
haven't.
the main character, main Jedi of that
Right.
series.
Blue hair guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
blue
I think
hair.
so.
he ended up the main. I can't remember the main villain of the series. What's his name, Matt?
Grand
Oh,
Admiral Thrawn.
yes. So
Oh, the last two
Thrawn and
seasons.
Ezra disappeared at the end of that series, and that's
Yeah.
that's why Ahsoka's looking for him. So
I'm thinking that I think last summer I just will watch like an episode of Clone Wars every night. So,
mhm.
I might do Rebels this summer. I was going to ask you guys a question, a nerd question.
Okay.
So did Darth is Darth Sidious the apprentice, or Darth Sidious talks about uh, how Darth Plagueis was killed in his sleep by his apprentice. Is Darth Sidious that apprentice that he's talking about?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
be surprised.
Sidious is
Truthfully.
110% the one who killed Plagueis for sure. I think everything we saw happen in the prequels was Plagueis' plan.
Uh-huh.
Sidious just took it over, killed him, became the Sith
Right.
Lord, Sith Master, and then
Right.
obviously had Darth Maul at first, and then Count
Yeah,
Dooku for a
the
little
rule of
bit.
two.
Rule of
So I
two
think
at
he
all
wanted
times.
he wanted that power for himself.
And
I feel like
he recruited
you,
Maul himself. So
you could even make like a dynamic to it, like uh Plagueis was, if it's in the time of the High Republic where the Jedi are even more like prominent, you could say that Plagueis had like a very slow moving um approach to taking over the Jedi Order, whereas Sidious, he didn't want, he was impatient and killed Plagueis so that he could do it himself, and in turn that's why Sidious ended up failing, because he compromised the plan by taking matters into his own hands and moving too fast.
right.
So I guess you could say that.
Yeah, he was his own undoing. I think 100%. That'd be awesome. I think we're gonna definitely see, because from all understanding, the clones and all that being created. I think it was 20 years before. Was it 20 years before Revenge of the Sith, Matt? That they started creating the clones. The Jedi that was banned from the Jedi Order is the one that
Oh, that
set
was
him up.
sometime.
10 years maybe.
10 years.
I think it
Was
was
it
like
10?
10.
Okay.
Yeah,
10, I think that makes sense. Okay.
I think it
Master
was.
Sifo-Dyas.
Yeah, I think it was a
Right.
little. Yeah, Master
Sifo-Dyas,
Sifo-Dyas.
right.
I think that was like a bit before Phantom Menace even, and then afterwards it came full circle in Attack of the Clones, and it's very funny though. And I'm not sure if you remember the season where Count Dooku reveals that he was Darth Tyrannus.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
Right.
He says, I told you everything you needed to know on Geonosis, Obi-Wan. Like, come on. Like, he literally, Count Dooku, one, did not necessarily agree with Sidious's methods. I think he had a much different approach and did not respect the Jedi, given the fact that he, lost faith, not only in
he was
himself,
obviously he was really a
others.
centrist. Like that's what they were. The separatists were centrists. They saw themselves as like the in between kind of balanced group. And I think Dooku was more leaning towards that. I don't think he was truly a Sith. There's a rumor out there, and I think I don't know if it was an interview with someone or whatever, but they said Dooku never got the yellow Sith eyes because he never truly joined the Sith in the eyes of the Sith, right? Like he never became a true Sith Lord.
Yeah.
That's why he never, he was always struggling with that balance, towards the good, towards the bad, and why he never truly transformed into a Sith Lord. So
I think the separatists also, like, you can't, if you're looking at it from like a good versus evil perspective, you can't put the separatists like in the same light as you put the Empire, because like or actually, well, that's another point, but the separatists like weren't inherently bad. They were just it wasn't like they were committing like genocide or some heinous thing that I'm aware of.
Yeah, they did it on a few occasions, but it wasn't. But I understand where you're coming from, though.
I don't recall them being like actually evil. I recall them just being the foil of the or not even the foil, but just the counter to the clones and the Jedi.
Right, I agree with that. But hey, I think we're running out a little bit of time here, boys. I do need to say though, Mason, it's been a pleasure to have you on board here, man.
Thanks for bringing me on.
You're pretty knowledgeable and passionate about this stuff, and you're always welcome on any podcast related to Star Wars, for sure. But hey, so first I want to say, where can they find you? I know we always kind of do our thing here. We kind of say if we're on Twitter, you drop your tag, Instagram, anything like that. You're more than welcome to drop it here if you want to, real quick.
I'm all good. I might be starting some sort of YouTube channel or podcast in the near future. So if I do happen to, then I would provide that. But right now, I'm just a dude.
All right, sounds good, man. Appreciate that, Matt. Tell them where they can find you, brother.
Yeah, as always, over on Instagram, Matt_T29. As always, thank you for the support, and of course, Mason, thank you for joining us today to geek out about Star Wars. And even though you make fun of me at times, for all I know, but
and of course, you guys can find me at Jon_OTS. You can find me running the OTS Facebook page, on the Sidelines page and group on Facebook, OTS guys on Twitter. And find us on all the platforms. We're on YouTube. Drop a subscribe when you can, and any platform you can think of where you can find your podcast. But as I said, We Can Be Heroes is a heroes podcast about any type of content you can think of. Thanks for joining.